Hello, everybody. We'll be waiting another 2 minutes before we start in case more people are joining. I see more people are joining slowly and slowly. Okay, so while I will start talking, anybody, if they want to ask questions, I'll be seeing your questions at the same time. So you're free to comment. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can while I'm talking. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Friday Spotlight. This is our first English lesson, so first of many, I hope. Okay, so I'm really happy to be with you today and share my knowledge and experience and help you organize your practice for success. Today we will be talking about the importance of the first session and creating the ground basis and reporting. Please understand that there are many ways of working on a client, especially if you're considering the uniqueness of each person and issue. We will be going in different ways of working throughout different videos that we will be having. So I don't want to confuse you if you have been taught in a different way or approach. There's no one way of working with a client. There are infinite possibilities, okay? But today our focus is our first session, your success with your client and your practice and paying attention to detail. This is what creates the precedence of professionalism in your practice. Okay. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, would you go to you? This is very important. Would you go to you? Create the environment that you would go to in your office. Respect the client, cleanliness, neatness. These are all important details. Extra things like aromatherapy, music playing in the background. These are add-ons when a person first comes to your office. A touch of professionalism. Okay, since the first session, you have a limited amount of information on your client. It is very important to obtain as much information as possible within the time limit that you have. So when you're first booking your client, your first appointment, first thing that you have to ask them is, who referred them to you? This is basic because your best marketing are referrals. You should focus on that because spending money on advertisement and marketing, it doesn't really add on to your practice. The best is having success with your client, the fastest success. That way they start talking and they bring you more people. That is your success. So the next thing that you have to find out when they call you is what their main issue is. The next thing is when you book your appointment, tell them to bring examinations. I always ask for basic blood examination, biochemical examinations, urine analysis, an ultrasound of a top and bottom abdominal. And depending on their main issue, I may need some extra, maybe an MRI or whatever, depending on what their issue is. These examinations set a marker of where you start your therapy. Because as you continue with your therapies, they will follow up with their examination and it's proof of how they're coming along. So it's really important to have their starting point. Okay, so at this point, I would like to answer a question that many people ask me. How long should a therapy be? And how long should the first therapy be? Time is very precious for all of us, for you as a therapist and for your clients. So we must respect the time that they give you. You must try to keep your therapy within the 2-hour limit, because otherwise it may be a reason why they may not come back, because you have to also consider the time it takes for them to come to you and the time it takes for them to go home. So it's a lot of time. So you respect the client's time. And so you make a program each time they come of what you're going to work on, how you're going to work on a plan, and basically to ease their main symptoms. It's a good idea to inform them that for their first session, they should come 10 minutes earlier so that they can fill out the special forms that you will give them, meaning their medical history. You give them a form with a medical history to fill out, their symptoms that they have, any medication that they are using. It's good for them to write it down. You can also have in the questions some of the SOC questions too. That way it'll be quicker for you to go over the SOC, the SOC questionnaire. Also give them a consent form informing them of your qualifications, what you do and what biofeedback is. So they can sign it and they understand it, that they're reducing all their stressors, and also a consent form for the GDPR. So this will take about 10 minutes. So as soon as they're done, at this point, you're ready to enter their information into the software and the SOC. Okay. The SOC is very important. It's an important process because it's 50% of their therapy. It's their lifestyle. It's getting them back on track. So you should give it at least like about 20 minutes. Shouldn't be more, shouldn't be less. Around 20 minutes is a good time to go over all the questions, give them suggestions, and put them back on track. These suggestions are very simple too, because it's not like a mountain for them. It's not difficult. It's not a huge diet that you're going to give them. It's basic things that they have to do so that the therapy that you're going to do on them, it's going to work better. They're going to have much more results seen. So at this point, we're ready to proceed and we can input our information. So let me share my my screen with you. Turn screen share on. Okay. Oh. Okay. So I think that you can see my screen. Okay. Let's proceed. Okay, so here we'll put the password. Okay, and for our purposes, let me just put client here, client for our Friday class. Okay, as a demo, let's say they're female. Let's say they were born on January 1st, 1980. Okay, and where were they born? Let's say Athens, since I'm here in Athens. Okay. Let me know in your chats where you're from. I would love to see who's on. Okay. So let's proceed here. Time of birth. Okay. In Europe, click on Greece. Okay. And I save my current client. Okay. At this point, I could also load the picture. I've loaded a picture in my desktop. Okay, it's really simple now with the new software. All you do is click it, and there I am. Okay, so now we're ready to go into the SOC. Okay, so here in general, we'll spend about 20 minutes with our client, and we'll go into detail of how we can suggest things. I'll have a specific lesson at some point on how to go over the SOCs, but now I want to go over mainly on how you go over a first session in general. Okay, some of you may already know how to do this, others not. Okay, any questions I can answer on the chats and messenger if you wish later on. So let's say for our purposes, they haven't removed any organs, they're not taking any drug, they're not smoking, they have, let's say, 2 amalgams, they're not doing any drugs, mental factors, let's say, just the fact that someone is coming to you, they obviously have at least one unresolved mental factor. But you can ask them how many mental factors they may have that they're stressed about, that they can't solve. Okay, you see how much percentage of fat they have as an intake, how much stress they may have on a scale of 0 to 10, let's say for their sickness and school stress. Let's say they do have an issue with their bowels too, okay, and some issues with their sleep. Okay, alcohol, no. Coffee, 1. Okay, major injuries, let's say 2 surgeries, let's say. They're not drinking enough water. Let's say they're not drinking enough water. So they should be drinking more. We'll go into that in their detail. Okay, so we're basically ready with the SOCs here. Okay, of course, in reality, when we go through the SOC, we'll spend a little bit more time and we'll discuss with them. Because the SOC, you do establish a rapport with your client. You get closer with your client. You tell them, you talk with them, okay? But you should also keep it focused, not to go over the 20-minute limit. So we close and we proceed to calibration. Okay, before we go into calibration, it's a good idea every morning, every time before a client, or every night to clear your space of any geopathic stress. It's a good idea. So you can get better results with your testing and calibration. It reduces the electromagnetic noise that's around the room and around the client. So it says move the computer to a different spot. Okay, let's clean the room, clean the workspace then, because I cannot change my spot. Great, geopathic stress cleaned, fantastic. So I proceed into calibration. I could also load the patient picture, so easy since we loaded it in the client intake form. And we proceed to calibration. You'll notice down here I have a Word document open. I always have a Word document open so I can print screen anything I am doing and anything that comes up in the matrix, etc. It's very important to document what you're doing and what you see each time you have your client. This also shows professionalism. You can send it to your client with a special form telling them that these are not used for diagnostics and they're only reactions to stress. Okay, and they're print screens from the software, so you can send them by email to your client, but you always should keep a record of everything that you're doing with each client if you want to refer back. Okay, I always save them on an external disk that I have here in my office, so I don't overload with my memory on my laptop, and it can run smoothly. So do you want to close the calibration? Yes. Okay, at this point, before I proceed into testing, I will go into the EEG and ECG, especially in the first session. Very, very important. The EEG and the ECG is important because it gives you information of how stressed they are. And a lot of times things come up here that they haven't even mentioned on their medical history form that they filled out for you previously. Also, it's proof for your client that you are actually measuring something. Okay, a lot of information can come up here. The thing is that I'm not going to do it now for you because I don't have the harness on me, but I'm just showing you that this is the way I work. And when I do it, when I start the EEG program, I would do a print screen and I would paste it. I would paste the results here on my Word. I would go back. I will do the ECG, the same thing. I will, when the results come out, I would print screen it and I will paste it on my Word document. So here I'm filling out my report and they see that because in my office, I have a big screen showing what I'm doing. My client can see everything. And for me, it's a good idea. A lot of people ask me, should I have a screen in my office? Should they see? I think it's important that they see because it creates trust. They see things. And some things, 4 eyes are different than 2 because especially if you don't know your client that well, some things you may see and other things they may see that may click and they say, oh, what's that? Why is that coming up? And then you start talking. So I think it's important to have also the screen, a big screen in your office. Okay, so after I do the EEG and ECG, we'll go into testing. Okay, activate positive consciousness. Okay, we do the preparation, which also clears the field and prepares them for test. Now here I want to mention that during the testing, I do not allow them, I'll press the test, but during the testing, I don't allow them to have any iPad or a tablet or their telephone in their hands. I tell them to relax, no speaking, and I leave the room. The less electromagnetic noise there is in the room, the better testing they will have, and the results will be theirs and not distorted with other information. Okay. So here's the VAR-HOPE. Of course, during the first session, while they're testing, you're not in the room, so you won't be seeing the VAR-HOPE. You can take a look at it afterwards. But for our purposes now, for our lesson, immediately we see regulatory dysfunction, spinal energy flow. So that's one thing you definitely have to do. The software always tells you what you have to do in that specific session. And even though they tell you, well, my back is not hurting, their energy flow there is not correct. So you should do it. You should do it. Oxygenation transfer dysfunction, that too. It's telling you these things that, therapies that you should go through within this session, especially this first session. A little high is their resonant frequency pattern. Okay, it's not over 15,000. That's usually the marker for anxiety, etc. But 11,000 is close. So we have to work on their stress. Okay, it's telling us we still have 1 more minute to go through the testing. Let me stop sharing 1 moment to see if you have any. Oh, hello from Canada. Hello from Hungary, UK, Romania. Great, great. Hello, everybody. Qatar. Wow. I'm so happy to see you all. Let me go back to sharing. Oops. Okay. We still have 23 seconds. Great. So when the eductor, software is finished, you can re-enter the room. Okay. At this point, you've spent about a half an hour to 35 minutes of your time. So you have another hour and a half time that you have to plan out. That, what I usually do, within that half hour, I start looking at things, I discuss with them what I see, and then I leave the last hour to let them relax and do a deep therapy on them in that 1 hour so they can leave better. So the first thing that, you have to work kind of quickly. I organize myself in specific panels as a first time session. I try to make as many print screens as possible. That way I can, if I don't have time to really look into it deeply during the time I'm with them, I can do it at a later time when they leave, So I would print screen the first screen, definitely. Oh, and of course the far hope too, that I didn't do. I didn't print screen it. It's good to have that on your file. Okay. Okay, we see here mental. Mental is the highest, environmental and mental are the two highest issues that we have to, calm this person down. They have to drink more water. Okay, there is a major obstruction. Exercise can be arranged. Okay, here it says, please expect 2 treatments for results. So for some reason, maybe with the first session, they may not have that many results, but after the second session, they will start having results. We will always see. But this is what the eductor says. For some reason, there is some kind of major obstruction. Okay. Other things that we can look at. Let me print screen that too. Always remember, whatever you see, print screen it so you can remember what it said and you can have referrals. I quickly go into the sub-filters and see what's over 100, what's red, what's over 90, because remember, our software, even the 90s are really, really important, not only the 100s. The 90s also are underlying issues. So we'd want to look into that, those things, quickly look into it. Let's go further down on the sub-filters. Get more information. Bacteria, there's bacteria going on lungs. Maybe they have chronic fatigue. You discuss this with your client, how they feel. Be confident what you see in the main matrix. You have to believe in it. For some reason, these things are coming up. Either it's because they've gone through it, they're going through it, or there's a tendency. But for some reason, it's coming up. I always respect what I see, even if it's kind of like, why is this coming up? Or my client says, no, I don't have it. But for some reason, it's coming up, and you explain it to them that some reason it may be hidden, it may be sleeping in you, or there may be a tendency. But we respect it and we work on it. Okay. Okay, we can make print screens. You see how I'm working here? I go through the filters, I make print screens, so I have the time later on to look at everything. But of course, we have something really great that I'm going to show you later on that really saves a lot of time. Okay, let's see, the backbone diseases. See, they don't have it. They have one red, backbone. Low back pain. You ask them, do they have a back pain? We seem to have some dislocation of joints. Discuss this with them. These are their main issues. And in correlation with what their main symptoms are, that's what you will work on. You see, this thing comes up, and also spinal energy. So definitely you'd have to work on that. Okay, see their emotions. spirituality, obsessiveness, monotony. Okay. Our goal is to get everything firstly under 100 and then to have as little as possible of 90s as well. Okay. Let's go into, okay, we'd always load the first on the red line and 2 or 3 items on the purple line. I would also load certain things that pertain to their symptoms and their issues into the blue box, and then I would load the report. Okay. Let's go into the short STAR codes, see what other information I may see. Some ear sclerosis, okay. Some emotional disturbances with fear. Okay, we can work on their fear. Okay, as we're going through this, we can discuss it with them. Risks, with the risk panel is very important, which the risk panel is basically a subcategorization of the entire matrix in subcategories. So let's load whatever's over 100 on the treat items. So whatever's loaded here also automatically loads on the body viewer. Okay, so it's good to load them. You can do a lot more things here, but for our first session, we don't need to do everything. Remember that we have a time limit and it's impossible to do everything. We have time to do other things. Okay, the first thing is to get in as much information as possible on the client and to make them feel better. So possibly vitamin deficiency in excess. We have to work on that. Their bones may be aching. We have to look into those things. So treat items above. Always check the second generator and the autofocus. The Matrix Explorer, I'll show it to you later. I love the Matrix Explorer. So, okay, it's rectified 77. I'd proceed if I went over 85, but for our purposes, for our lesson here, so I don't spend a lot of time on each panel, I'm going on, but I would like the rectification to be at least 85. I like to zap close, okay, on the bottom, with the bottom, but remember to always do the print screen. So we have that on file, okay, and see, they're completely exhausted as well. Zap close, okay, so we see what's going on here on the auto zaps by zapping close. There's amoebas going up, a lot of the auto-aggressive dysfunction for autoimmune, top pathogens coming up, feel-good therapy. So, I would take a picture of what's needed. I won't do everything. I will do whatever I feel is needed and I have time to do within my time limit. But for now, I'm still looking. I'm still searching. I'm still learning about my client. Okay, so I always make those print screens. Let's look at the aggravations, causes and aggravations. These are always really interesting too. Job, school stress, karma, interesting. So that's something that obviously we have to work on. Something's following them. Maybe they're too hard on themselves. Maybe they can't forgive themselves. Maybe they have something following them in general. Okay. Creating stress. That's the aggravation, the causes. Stress, struggle with themselves, allergy stress, over-intellectualization. That is an issue when they think too much and it blocks them. This is a big disease causer, the over-intellectualization. And I'll show you what we will do later on. So I'm taking notes. I'm doing the print screens and I'm making a plan inside me while what I'm going to do. And it'll unfold in just a few minutes. with you. Okay, let's look here a little further down. What other information I have here? Eductor 1 report. I like this one. This gives us a lot of information too. Front lobe brain. Front lobe, most stressed organ. That's the front lobe is the emotional part of the brain. It's where motivation starts. It's where, to help them to do things. You can ask them also if they have headaches there too. What's going on? Muscle tension. So they need relaxing, concern with blood. Okay. Because remember, in the auto zaps had a lot of infection going on. So maybe a good idea here is to go into the blood and clean that blood out. Help them. Okay, even though in the SOC, we did not put any smoking, treatment plan must stop smoking. Ask them if they live with a smoker. They may live with a smoker or smoking, they go to places where they smoke, other people smoke. If they say no to everything, for some reason it's coming up, it means that, okay, for some reason, smoking is not good for them, even though they're not around smokers. For some reason, it's coming up. It'll come up within the session, the reason why. We'll see. Okay, so I would make our print screen again. Let's see how this is going to unfold. So basically, I do have to do their emotions. I do have to do their blood for their immune, their over-intellectualization. Let's go a little further down. What else we can see? The emotions. I like to see their emotions as well. Now, there's different ways you can see their emotions. We can go through the chart. Okay, the chart. Okay, there's some addiction going on here. Maybe it's addiction to substances, maybe it's but even though the SOC, they didn't have any substances, but maybe then it's they're addicted to thoughts or actions. They're reckless, they're scared of being reckless. So this needs, when people are scared to be reckless and also addiction is coming up, definitely we have to do some brainwave training, help them be more focused, self-doubt, increase their self-confidence. Okay. Okay, we could also look, since we're here, at the neurotransmitters. See what comes up. GABA. So it's for thought control. Interesting. Okay, ask them how they're sleeping. If they're sleeping well or not. They're waking up at night, having difficulty sleeping. Okay. So at this point, I would also like to go also in the dark field analysis, because here we also have information that comes up. Okay. Even though I checked female, okay, why prostate would be coming up? Well, it could be because maybe my partner is having maybe an issue. I don't know. Or maybe it's maybe male hormones, because we all have both male and female. So kidney infection, kidney stones, something. So we really have to work on these things. These are giving us hints of things that we need to work on. Make a control, a print screen of this as well. Great, so one more screen I'd like to see to get more information, to get the whole puzzle in there, is the homotoxicology. We see inflammation tissue. Remember, their spinal was coming up. They were in pain, hip dislocation, Some infection was going on. So obviously all this is creating inflammation. Okay, well, the best of the items here to be checked are the yellow ones. We don't want the blue ones here checked. Okay, that's more serious issues, but if they are checked, it's also an indication that we have to look at their exams more carefully. Okay, so I would print screen here. Simple drainage. They need some detoxing. So let's look at the xenobiotics. This will give us some information on what their toxicity is all about. I'm not going to do the therapy actually here, just getting information. Okay, so look, alcohol is coming up. Even though they said they didn't drink alcohol, but because of all these antiseptics we're using because of COVID and all this stuff, a lot of people have alcohol really high up because we're putting alcohol on our hands. How many times a day? Okay, so caffeine. That person may be only drinking 1 coffee a day, but for some reason, it's bothering them. It's not good for them. Okay, so that's the unique thing about the device and the measurements and the reactions. Everything is unique to that one person, how they are reacting to the caffeine. Another person may be drinking 3 or 4 coffees a day and the reactant is 85. Okay, but for some reason, this person shouldn't drink coffee. It doesn't suit them. Okay, toxins for pork or whatever. Okay, weather exposure. Okay, weather exposure is usually now with a change of weather. A lot of people may have been having aches and pains. So, this all gives you an idea here. Ooh, vaccination. That's another topic I don't want to go into. Okay. Okay, so we have our information on what we need to go to. At this point, we've gone through that 1 hour with this SOC and looking through everything. So we have another hour. We've discussed things, we've found things, and we tell our client at this point, okay, I want you to relax. I want you to enjoy my therapy, and I'll let you know what I see at the end. Close your eyes, listen to your music, because they've seen you take pictures of everything. So they know that you're going to be taking pictures. So at the end, you'll discuss whatever else you see with them. So at this point, I would go into the universal therapies and do the basics. First of all, what are the basics? I would do, first of all, 1 minute of spiritual healing. I'm not going to actually do the therapies now. I'm just showing you so that, we optimize our time. Okay. And I do this at least for 1 minute and at least to get an 85%. If I get 70%, I'll do it again and again until I get at least an 85%. Of course, remember, this person had the issue with the karma. And a little somewhere else, I saw some spirituality issues. So I wouldn't just put 1 minute here. I would directly put 3 minutes and leave it 3 minutes to run. Okay. After that, to relax them, what I'm going to show you now puts them directly to sleep. I would start with a vagus nerve stabilization. I would then do the sympathetic stabilization and the parasympathetic stabilization. Usually, when you first do the vagus nerve stabilization, it'll go to 40 to 50% rectification. It won't go that high. You would then go to the sympathetic. It may go to 100, but it may go to 60, depending on the person. You have to remember what you're doing and notice. Then you go to parasympathetic. You don't keep doing it till you do 85. You do the rotation. you do the parasympathetic. By this point, usually the parasympathetic will go to 90 or 100. Then you will do a second round of whatever is under 85. The vagus nerve was definitely under 85, so you will do it again. And only if the sympathetic stabilization was under 85, then you would do it. Otherwise, you stop at the vagus. Okay? I would go to the brainwave because this person had a lot of stress, remember? So I would like to do alpha stress and click the normal, and you would press start. Look, I'm going to show you this because you need to see this so I can show you. You can understand what I'm going to tell you. Okay, by doing this, you are working on the nervous system of the client and you relax them. By relaxing them, they will be more acceptance to your further therapies that you will be doing. This is a quick way of getting them better, quicker. Because remember, we only have an hour to do therapy on them. And here, this therapy, you may need to press even 5 or 6 times to get the result that you want. I will explain. Great. So notice here what's going on. Injury profile, 108. Attention deficit, 107. Local slow waves, 111. Your goal is to have the normal, the highest number. On older devices, we used to say that we wanted it at least 10 markers over all the other numbers. Okay, but on our device, you just wanted the highest number. Okay, it's enough because it's our device is quite strong, so you don't need to do it so many times till it's 10 markers over. But you do want normal over everything else. So you will start. You'll press start again and again. It may take 3 times. It may take 5 times. It may even take 10 times. But the more you work on a client, you will notice that they will rectify quicker. On further sessions, they won't need so many times. Okay. For our purposes here, we'd stop here. Of course, there are other things that we can do here, but remember, this is our first session. We don't need to do everything. Our purpose is to relax them and make them feel better. So we close here. 2 things that we have to do definitely here are the auto meridian and allergy suggested and the auto trivector therapy. It's the yellow and purple therapy. These are the unconscious choices that they have made, that they need these therapies to get better. Okay. Now there is a process that you go to work on these, especially the allergy and meridian therapy. Let me show you really quick because I like how I work. And I've seen with my experience that I have such good results. Because it said allersodes, I would go into the allersodes. I don't know if any of you know this. Okay, we will go into an in-depth of each panel in future lessons, but I'm just showing you really quick the possibilities. I would load the top. I see a lot of allergies on this person. That's why it said allergies. Load the top ones. You don't need to load all of them, just the top ones. We want to peel the onion for this person. Okay, we've loaded them on the hyperreactant report. We would go to the chart and you would do a desensitization therapy on them for these items. This will lower their inflammation. Remember, in homotoxicology, they are in inflammation. For some reason, it seems like they have an allergy. Maybe that's why they're not absorbing their vitamins as they should. And that's why in the risk panel, the number one issue was vitamin deficiency. Something's going on here. So we're kind of like, trickle teasing them now, doing a little therapy, helping their body get over this. Okay, of course, while you're doing therapy, you can load all the subspace programs on the side as well. I love the third eye stimulation. Do an unconscious frequency search. Great. Loaded something, start. Great, so this is still working. Okay, and you see in the bottom, I have my main therapy working. We went 79%. Now for our purposes, if I was in therapy, I would do it again. We want a rectification of over 85, but for our purposes, I'm not going to do it, okay? So at this point, I would close here. And remember, the reason why I came here was because I wanted to work from the universal, the meridians. So what do? I go to hyperreactant therapy, reduce histamine cascade, that's the inflammation, relieve inflammation, release mental fixation, is their stress, and that over-intellectualization. I would check these as well. Their symptoms, let's say inflammation, pain, body affected, spine, let's say brain, because it was that frontal, this is all hypothetical because I don't have a person in front of me, but according to what came up, it was their frontal lobe, remember, the most stressed organ. Spine, brain. Okay, we've pressed everything. For me, if it was a normal session, I would put 5 minutes here to do a desensitization of 5 minutes, but I will only do 1 minute for our purposes, okay? And you see, from the allosodes, it brought me back here to the universal panel, to the meridians, okay? So that's how I normally work, to save time and do everything. So while this is working, I see down here my piggyback therapies. I have the third eye stimulation. I could turn on the body viewer. All these piggyback adds an emphasis on your therapy. So on one hand, we want to work on the inflammation, let's say. Remember, it was also the stress and the anxiety that they had, their psychological issues. So I would definitely do, okay, the brain, the frontal lobe. Remember, it was the most stressed organ. Let's do the lymphatic since they had inflammation. Here it says lymph healthy. Let me go into the immune and the spleen. What does that say for their immune system? Inflamed, you see? Okay, let's go into the immune, oops. Sorry. I guess I have too many things going on. This is with the video too, and it's kind of slow. So the infection, okay. Allergy, definitely. Let's do some emotions too and relax them. Anxiety, okay. So we have our piggyback going on of body viewer, the third eye stimulation. Let's see how our allergy is working. I have to, we don't have much time. So I have to kind of like fast forward because I definitely want to show you how I close my client on the first session. did press 1 minute, right? Okay. Should be finishing soon. Why is this taking so long? I hope I put 1 minute. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, I did put 1 minute. Okay, so I did the start desensitization. Remember that I would have put 5 minutes. So I'm back here in the meridians. What I would do here is, so I could ease their pain, I would put pain here in the beginning and test the meridians to an item and do therapies on those items that come up. At that point, I would do start. After that, start meridian therapy, and then finish with a retest all. We would go into detail later on other videos with this, but I'm just showing you definitely what therapies we need to go on our first therapy, whatever is yellow and purple. Here it's telling us the auto trivector. So definitely I would do the auto trivector. I would do the start. If it would say DNA, I would also do the DNA. It doesn't say the DNA though. Close, and I would always finish the universal therapy with the scalar, treat all. Okay? And make sure that the rectifications are all over 85. Now, depending on how much time you have left, if you still have time of that 1 hour left over, let me do a screenshot here, because I remember we're doing screenshots. Okay. Depending on how much time we have left over, would tell me what else I would do. If I have time, I would do the spinal energy flow and the oxygenation flow, and then I would be finished. They would normally be done. I would do the spinal. Let me show you from the spinal. I would definitely do the main spinal, the treat and test trivector energy flow. I would definitely do the neuro-emotional complex, and I would definitely do the cranial sacral. Okay. At this point, they are definitely really calm. They are feeling better. They're feeling calm. I'm sure their pain, we'll ask them, is the pain better? We'll see what percentage. So it's come to the 1 hour point and we have to close. How do we close a client? This is very, very important. So you close nicely, smoothly, and you know how to book the next client. The first thing you need to do, you would close here and you go to check current rectifications, okay? You would see here that there are another 3 things that you didn't have time to do, the toxicity, the pathogens, and the constitutional. But it's okay, because as we said, we can't do everything in one session. It would be fantastic. I have had times that I go in here and it's already empty, but you empty it with with a rectify all anyhow. So you go here, we rectified it, we emptied the panel, we'd go back to test, and we retest to do our test VARHOPE improvement. This is really important to see how effective we were in our session today. People love seeing what percentage they got. And I'd like to explain a little bit what the percentage means. It's 1.5 minutes, and that's how I close. And one more item before we close on booking the next appointment as well. I'll show you how. So while we're waiting for the VARHOPE improvement, let me stop sharing just one moment so I can go back and see if you have any questions. Any questions? No, I don't see any questions. Okay, well, anything you wish, I am available for you. You can find me on Messenger. Okay, we have another 16 seconds left to see our VARHOPE improvement. Wow, okay. So with what we did so far, we had a 51% improvement, which is actually fantastic for a first time. That's what I always tell my clients. I mean, usually even a 10% improvement, even a 5% improvement, the first time is really good, okay? Because actually the therapy that we did on them, it takes another 72 hours to work on them. It's still working on them another 72 hours. Like after a good night's sleep, the next day, the following day, when they start doing the suggestions also that we've given them, it'll give them a more improvement the following days. So if we did a 51% improvement now, tomorrow and the next day, they're going to really be feeling the difference. And tell them to call you and tell them to tell you how they are. Okay, so from here, I would go to the Eductor 1 report and let's see the next visit. Great, so even though we had a 51% improvement, the Eductor is telling us to book in 1 week. For some reason, we need another therapy in 1 week. So we book them that next week. We ask them, are you okay? Is it okay to book with you? Because there's also always the financial issue too and their time. Okay, but it's a way of showing to them that, the Eductor is telling them that for some reason we need to see them in 1 week so we can have better results on them. Okay, usually if we do sessions on them, one on top of the other, we have better results afterwards, and then we can go to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks thereafter. So I know, especially for beginners, all this information can be overwhelming, and a lot more information is needed in classes. So we'll be here with you and offering more classes. But of course, if anybody wants to contact me on Messenger, ask me any questions, I'll be happy to help you. Even for people who may want some private sessions or private mentoring, we'll be available to help. Remember, we all started somewhere. So, continued experience and practice makes perfect. I hope you really enjoyed my class today. Let me have a look at you. How do I come back here? Okay. I send you love, kisses to everybody, and see you in 2 weeks again for our next class. Kisses.